There it is.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, your friend Joseph Craven.
Wow. Feels weird to be back. It feels right to be back, but it feels weird to be doing this, especially on a match day.
Yeah.
Just kind of tuning in, doing a little live stream. If you're joining us here on YouTube, I thank you for doing so. If you are catching the uploaded podcast later on, thank you for doing that as well. This is You'll Never Talk Alone, back after a brief hiatus, simply because life has been crazy busy for us. We apologize that we have not been able to produce any podcast episodes, but at the same time, life has been very busy. You should be apologizing to us for our lives being so chaotic.
Yeah, nobody tweeted to check in on us. Come on, people.
Not a single one of you. Not a single one of you. But as mentioned, I am your friend Joseph Craven, and that is Alex Lovell joining me. And it is match day. What is this? Match day 4? Match week 4, I mean?
Yes,
season?
I'm so used to there being like 5,000 games at any given time that I'm assuming the season's almost over.
Yeah.
And that every week is a new full season.
Right. Well, that's the issue with now that we all keep up with the Bundesliga as well. It's like it just is like almost information overload. I say almost because it's still beautiful and I still love it, but it's almost information overload. But so we're recording right now. It is Central Time, 10:37 a.m. That means that it is at the tail end of the major block of games, that middle block of games on a fine Saturday. Here in the States, it's Saturday morning, of course, in the afternoon if you're listening from England or anywhere in Europe. And obviously, Liverpool does not play until Sunday, so it gives us a little bit more leeway to preview a match that will be a pretty big one. But we just figured we'd get in here and try to jump back into a lot of the stuff that has happened over the past couple of weeks we have not had any time to discuss. Obviously, we did not have a chance to really preview what was a major matchup against a obviously and regrettably very talented Chelsea squad. And we haven't had a chance to recap what happened and all of that as well as the end of the transfer window, as well as our totally unnecessary 2 cents, our opinions on the return of Cristiano Ronaldo to the Premier League. Spoiler alert, we probably won't even talk about it. But we thought
Are you talking about Penaldo?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the dude who only scores. How nice is it that the biggest critique against Pinaldo about Ronaldo, or the biggest, it's not a critique, it's just haters. It's just haters who say that he only scores penalty kicks. And it's hilarious to me because now, of course, he's going to team up with Bruno Fernandes, who actually does only score penalty kicks. So, good for everyone involved. All right, well, right now, I mean, we've got matches such as United and Newcastle 2-1 as of right now. Man City and Leicester's 1-0. Arsenal Norwich 1-0. Palace 3-0 over Tottenham. Wow. So Tottenham's still doing well. That's good.
Yeah, RIP to their title challenge that ended this morning.
Okay, so here's the question then, Alex. Let me just jump into this kind of more general, not specifically Liverpool focused, but in general. It seems like, especially coming out of that Liverpool and Chelsea matchup, that this season is most likely going to be City, Chelsea, and probably Liverpool in that title discussion to some extent. Right? That's it, right? Like, no one else has really stood out as necessarily being in the same tier as, obviously, City or Chelsea. They've made a lot of additions and changes, but Liverpool, who's healthy, we're healthy and returning the talent from a squad that won the Premier League faster than anyone else ever did. So returning all those key players, but also finally getting to really add in players like Thiago or Diogo Jota, those pieces that we didn't get to see to full effect last season. Does that seem like a fair summation this super early on in the season where it's totally dumb to try to actually make a summation like that?
As much as I hate to admit it, I think United will be in the conversation for a while. I mean, they've signed a lot of attacking talent, and they'll do that thing where they just end up scoring somehow, and it'll be really stupid and frustrating all the time. And then I know we said we probably weren't going to talk about him, but Pinaldo does bring with him a bunch of goals, even if they're not all necessarily penalties. He just finds a way to score. He's just ruthlessly efficient, and that can definitely help, especially when a lot of the teams in the league are not very good. And it could come down to goal difference or anything like that. So I think they're in, although I think they're probably the most flawed out of all the teams in the challenge because they're very top heavy.
For sure. They're kind of employing what has been the tactic that the AI on FIFA has done for them for years of just trying to buy every attacking player that's available. I mean, I feel like the last time I played some FIFA, who all did they get? They straight up bought Jamie Vardy. Like, they straight up were like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just grab Jamie Vardy. He's going to be our striker now. We're just going to make that work. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah, even if you are getting there's far too much that has been said about, they're getting a 36-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, still Cristiano Ronaldo. You know? Like, he's one of those players who is good enough where, like, he'll be useful at 40.
Yeah. Like, have you seen him? He is not 36 years old in real life. Like,
no.
He's the most in shape person I've ever seen.
He's doing better at 36 than I have ever done at any point in my life. You know, like, my, like, physical peak absolute best was, like, I think the summer of 2005. That's about it, you know? Yeah. That's all I had. It might have been at some point in 2006. Otherwise, like, it was bad for me at all times, and he's just always in some level of physical peak. Anyway, so that, of course, was big transfer news. The major transfer news, obviously, with Liverpool is that we still don't spend money for any reason. And I'll tell you what, I'll pull up the. I know there was that great Twitter thread that were you the one who found that?
I feel like everyone collectively found it all at the same time. Like, it just so happened. Like, I know that the life cycle of tweets in any given timeline is like 7 seconds, but this one had the most staying power of any tweet because it just was everywhere for hours.
That's fair. I should have said specifically, are you the one who texted it to the rest of the YNTA crew?
I still feel like we all texted it at the same time.
We probably did. But, I mean, if you're listening and you haven't seen it, Swiss Ramble, at Swiss Ramble on Twitter, did a great little thread talking about just the business practices. And it's stuff that, like, I think we kind of know, but it's nice to be reminded of, to be like, oh, okay, that's right. We are... It actually is kind of still the exception to the rule that clubs can just spend unlimited amounts of money. Because most clubs are still owned and operated by businesses that actually do have realistic profit margins and stuff. Not everyone is like an oil baron who has, unlimited money and all that. So it's a good little, I say little, it's anything but little. This thing was like 150 tweets long, but it's a lot of charts and information, which is stuff that I just salivate over and just eat up. But it is just kind of, it's a little bit frustrating, but, here we are once again, no real additional signings because we didn't necessarily have any major sells, but yeah, we didn't have any major, we didn't have cash. We strapped for cash. How are you feeling about it now that we've passed the end of the transfer window? We're a little bit farther removed, maybe had a little bit more time to process. How are you feeling about the lack of moves for, whatever reason? Obviously, the most prominent being we couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still a little frustrated. Like, I know that we couldn't, just based on like how the club is run. But I mean, there's just some times where like we know that there is money somewhere. It's not like you just buy a team and then buy another team and then get like $1 billion partnership signed in the summer and be like, actually, we just don't have any money. Like, it's somewhere and you could put it in there if you want. And I get the, like, that's how you become that wealthy, is ruthlessly operating your businesses like that. But I think just in terms of some of that stuff, there would be times where if you do give that little extra injection, that the initial upfront cost will reap benefits further down the line when you have the assuredness of depth to like compete and win all of that stuff. So I'm still a little sad and frustrated. I mean, I love the squad that we have. As long as we can keep everyone fit, like we've talked about before, we will have the squad that we tried to have last season, and now we'll be able to see what that looks like. But I think that this market this summer was the weirdest transfer market ever in the history of ever. And like, I don't know. I feel like if we had just been a little bit more creative or done something a little bit differently, we could have found like a hidden gem of a deal somehow. But again, like you look at the facts of that thread and you're like, okay, like I get it. But at the same time, like it could have been more, and I don't know. It's just frustrating, but we've gotten to where we've gotten so far because of how it's been run before. So it sucks. Head and heart competing, and it's not going to be fun until we win the league.
Right, exactly. And we are obviously still a very good team.
Yeah.
And we're a very good team that is healthy again and does have the players we were supposed to have last season. And we've already seen the impact that of the depth that we were trying to, acquire last year. And we've seen the impact of Kostas Tsimikas, how well he covered for Andy Robertson when Andy was out. He ended up being a great player, and you could really see that. And I did have a friend I was chatting with who lives in London. I was chatting with him a little bit just about, general stuff, and mostly the major topic at hand being that I hate seeing Chelsea be good. And he does too, so we were chatting about that. But he did actually make the remark to me in a non-ironic way, and it was difficult for me to hear, but he said, well, I mean, having a player like Van Dijk come back from an injury is like a new signing. And I was like, oh.
He's a secret Liverpool fan.
He knows the pain, and he doesn't even realize that he knows the pain.
Only we're allowed to use the phrase like a new signing. No one else can use that. No other fan bases are allowed to use that. That's our club thing now. That is going to be, instead of like this means more, or those things that were plastered around Anfield, it's just going to say like a new signing.
Yep. Exactly. Like a new signing is our thing. I've already got it tattooed on my chest. It's just going to be the players walk out the tunnel, and instead of like under the "This is Anfield" sign, it's just a sign that says like a new signing. Play like a new signing today.
You have to be injured and come back to be able to hit the sign.
It's a separate tunnel. They have the tunnel for the players that have been healthy, and it's the "This is Anfield" tunnel. They have another tunnel that's okay, are you like a new signing? You go through this entrance. Oh man, I love it. You're right. I mean, this was the weirdest window, and I'm just like, for example, pulling up the numbers of it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that Juventus paid £105 million to get Cristiano Ronaldo from Real Madrid, just for them to turn around and basically hand him to United.
Yeah.
So it just was bizarre. It's like you would have thought that having seen the money splashed by like a Lionel Messi transfer, they would have at least been like, yeah, we can at least make some good money off of this if we really wanted to go ahead and move him. And instead, it was just kind of like, you take him. You know what? You've been good customers. We'll give you 10% discount on us just for being kind. It's like it didn't make any sense. But there's a whole lot of that, and so it does continue to be frustrating because you look at it's the comparison game, and it's the worst game to play in life in general.
Yeah.
But in sports, it has a lot more like practical application of, okay, if you're not doing what needs to be done to stay ahead of your competition, then you're not doing what needs to be done to maintain a successful, club, to be a successful team. You've got obviously the fact that you were talking about all the money from other ventures and all that, and this is Liverpool. This is a massive club. Merchandise sales alone worldwide are huge. Those have to be able to cover a lot of stuff. I don't know the club financials off the top of my head, but I feel like we're pulling in a lot of money just off of that. And I don't know. It's weird. It's been a weird transfer season, and it's been weird to see so many teams willing to just make deals that you never thought would ever happen. And they just make deals, and it's like, okay, cool, yeah, this player, whatever, who cares? Feels like we could have just gone up to Dortmund and been like, I don't know, like $5 million for Haaland, and they'd be like, make it 5.5. I don't know, sure. It just felt like anything could have happened. And I don't know if we seemed hesitant or what. Do you think there's any aspect of that leads into, again, this is absolute pure speculation, but that leads into the news that Michael Edwards is like not planning on sticking around? Do you think there's anything going on there that, like, obviously if he wants a different venture in life, that just makes total sense. You don't have to be unhappy to want to change of scenery. But do you think there's anything going on that is connected to all that sort of stuff?
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, he hasn't really been able to do anything for 2 years, so I don't really. He's
Maybe
probably
he's just bored. Yeah,
bored out of his mind. Yeah, he's like, guys, I just found this great player. He's playing in the Zwei Bundesliga. He's going to be great. His numbers are awesome. He costs $11, and like, sorry, we don't have that kind of money, Mike. You got to go back to the drawing board. So, like, I could see that being a possibility. I could also see like an eventual change of, I don't know, transfer philosophy coming, where just the way we've been doing the model before is just kind of be different, and it's not going to suit his skill sets as much. And yeah, maybe he's just ready to move on. He's been in the role a long time. He's done so much good. He's hit the highest of highs with the team. He's like built such an empire, but where do you go from there? So I don't know. There's things to consider there, but I mean, I would not be surprised in any way if the fact that we couldn't really do anything in terms of incomings, like that, when that's part of your role is to like go identify talent and figure out how to bring people in, and we're just getting told over and over again, like, you're not allowed to do that, then what do you do? I mean, we did really well with sales, and he had to do that part. That part's a lot less fun, I'm sure. But it's just funny that like we did all that stuff, and now we actually have a smaller squad than we did last year. Like we could not actually fill out the prerequisite like maximum number of players in our Premier League squad because we just didn't have enough players. Like,
I know.
So he's probably just like, well, what am I here for?
Yeah, exactly. No, there's got to be, when your entire job and your entire reputation is how good a negotiator you are, maybe sometimes you don't want to have super long, drawn-out negotiations all the time, right? Yeah. Like, not everybody always wants a challenge all the time. Sometimes you want, even at like on the top level of competition, as a player, sometimes you want to go out and go up against a team that you're just going to beat 4-0, and that's okay. Like, you just want to have the occasional match day where it is business as usual. And I think the same thing applies to the business end of things. Sometimes you don't want it to be an absolute nightmare, high-pressure struggle. Sometimes you would like to be able to say, yeah, okay, you're wanting $50 million and we'll give you 40, and another team just go, okay, sure, and that be it, and not be like, all right, you want 50 million, we'll give you 15 with some payment options that could bring it up to 23, and it's just like, sometimes you don't want it to be that way. And I don't know, I think you're we obviously it's total speculation because we don't know the man. I'm just trying to figure out like what life is actually like beyond the scenes from what we've been able to read, what we've been able to learn from like profiles written about him. I know especially when the news came out about his probable impending departure. That whenever it actually happens, I know there were a lot of articles talking about like just his history at the club and the stuff he's done and all that. So we have a little bit of kind of an understanding now because he does not like the spotlight, does not want to be in the spotlight. But scoring update, I did happen to turn on the, of course, my Seagulls, Brighton and Hove Albion. Leandro Trossard just scored a little lower corner kick goal right from like the edge of the box. Just a nice little curled into the lower corner to get past the Brentford keeper right in the 90th minute. So after what has been seemingly one of the worst matches you could possibly watch, at least there's a goal, and Brighton should be able to. Brighton will finish it up and have another 3 points. So
yeah, there's another team that we should have talked about title contenders wise. Like now that they're actually scoring, we got a whole different ball game going on. I mean, they were creating more chances than anybody, and here they are actually putting some of them away. Like it can't be stopped.
It'll be really interesting to see what they're able to do when they actually start playing Premier League teams.
Yeah, yeah.
How about though the impact of Edwards' impending departure from the club? Because obviously he has been an instrumental part of doing so much. We kind of have an understanding of what the philosophy or the chain of command is in bringing in transfers. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp has some sort of say in the type of player he wants because he clearly targets guys like Kostas Tsimikas that he knows are going to fit what he wants to do, that none of us have ever heard of, know nothing about, and are confused by, and then they show up and we're like, oh, okay. So obviously there's a part of play in there, but then the financial end of things, Edwards, he makes incredible deals happen, and it is obviously a gift. How much do you think that's going to impact what the team actually can do, what the club, can actually do moving forward whenever he is gone?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how we approach it. I don't know if we promote from within like we typically have done, if we just...
I think that's been the general rumor.
Yeah.
And I forget who the name is that was mentioned as a probable replacement, but
yeah, we've got a great data team. But again, like with someone who is so associated with a certain type of transfer, a certain model of like, I want this type of player, go find me a list. If there's a ranking on these lists, and if we can't get the first guy, we'll go with the second guy, or this list is only one player long, and this is the guy we have to get. And also haggling to the last penny. So I'm curious to see if we continue our approach. That kind of seems like how we would do things forever. But promoting from within seems to be the way to keep that going. But also, I don't know if the way that finances and the nature of the game have changed, that it forces a reevaluation of what we need to do in the market, as well as like by the time this new person comes in, again, these players will be another year older. And not just that, they will have had like 3 seasons worth of effort put into their legs in the past year. So, there is a refresh that will need to happen at some point, and whoever takes over will have to be in charge of that. So I'm interested to see what our approach is, and if we are going for unpolished gems, or if we're taking advantage of the fact that Liverpool is back at the pinnacle of the sport, and we could probably get whoever we want, like talent-wise, but like financials-wise, it'll be interesting to see how we deal with that.
Yeah, we obviously still kind of want to focus on guys that aren't going to cost 100 million euros, to bring in. Like, that's just, I think we understand that is a wholly unrealistic expectation for us as a club to ever do, because the way our financial situation is, we just never really will have 100 million sitting around. Like, there's a reason Van Dijk was the largest, signing the record-breaking signing, because that, for Liverpool, that's an astronomical amount of money.
Yeah.
And you might have a Manchester team that spends that on like a backup center back that they inexplicably never play, even though Harry Maguire sucks.
Yeah.
So like we're obviously still going to go and try to go after guys that are affordable but promising, and like what is it, Kareem Adeyemi, who's been in the rumor mill as of late, and apparently because he's been in the rumor mill, it might force us to make a move sooner than we want, because we're trying to lay low about it, which is always funny. Like when the rumors pop up and then the club is kind of obviously like, no, we've never heard of him. So you got plans like that where it's like, okay, that is like estimated like 25 million pounds. Okay, is kind of a rumored fee there. That's the type of stuff that still is affordable. Obviously, like the move for Harvey Elliott was huge, because we could see the potential. Those are still the types of promising moves, but you've got to be able to still get enough guys to bridge the gap between the current star players that are in their late 20s, especially because once a forward hits like the age of 30, unless they are a super rare breed, they start falling off quick. There's something about forwards that just, they hit the age of 30 and it's like, congratulations, like, thank you for your service, please go retire. And it's so bizarre. But, as our players get older in those positions, you got to think that there's got to be people that can bridge the gap, though. And those value moves are tricky. So those are the trickiest transfers to make happen. Yeah. It's easy to go up to an in-demand or a club with an in-demand player and say, we're going to throw 200 million pounds at you. And the club go, okay, well, yeah, we'd be stupid to not take that money no matter how good he is. It's a lot more difficult to find the person who's like, yeah, we're going to be able to realistically afford this guy. He's going to be beneficial to the club. He's going to fit what we need to do. And we can actually afford him. Like that's hard.
Yeah.
And that's where someone like Michael Edwards, like his talent is on full display in the ability to pull off those. I think they're the trickiest kinds of transfers out there, and he does it so well. So that's going to be difficult for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think about these rumors about Adeyemi?
I'm excited about them. I mean, he's a really good player. Just noting that, like, this season is just a strong start, but this is the first time where he's like the guy. Like they had Daka last season, who is now moved to Leicester. So it's kind of one of those things where strong start. We know that there's talent there. You just got to wait and see a little bit to see, like, is it a flash in the pan? Is it the league? Like, what is the true level, the true ceiling? Which, I mean, I still think is going to be really, really high. I don't think it's a fluke that this is happening. I also don't think it's a fluke that he is doing so well and Brendan Aronson is playing a lot. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. So, I mean, I would be very excited about it. I think that's a very reasonable deal for the level of talent, the level of interest that he's had. It would probably take him a little bit to adjust, just from the Red Bull system and how they're playing in Salzburg to our style. But I mean, we're used to seeing players take a while to adjust. So I hope
we're used to bringing in players from Red Bull at this point in time.
Right?
Too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if sending Agent Minamino over there to hype him up would be the best idea, given how that move has unfolded so far. But I don't think it's unreasonable to look back there and sign people, because they're just a hotbed of talent, and it would be great to get him in particular, as well as just anyone into this team to start the refresh, to have that pool of talent. Like with his age profile, and you look at someone like him and Harvey just being the backbone of the team and like the new creative wave that we have, like that would just be fantastic.
It really would. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my guy, Taiwo Awoniyi.
Yes.
Who got, moved over to Union Berlin and has been absolutely crushing it. Those moves are the ones that I'm like, man, I don't know. Maybe I actually was onto something when I said he could have been a proper Divock Origi replacement as our, like, but I don't know. Diogo Jota obviously has been that. He's been the backup, shadow striker, whatever, so far this season, for in place of Bobby. So whatever, it's all good. But yeah, I love it. Also, I don't feel like Taiwo was ever on our official website ever listed at his correct height.
No.
Like, he apparently was like 6 foot even when he signed with the team in like, what, 2003, 2004?
Yeah. 98, 99.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when he was an infant in 98, he did it. You know, and apparently just in that point in time, he just had never come back in, obviously, with like work visa stuff. They never remeasured him, and then like he finally is like, by the way, I'm 6'4" now.
Yeah.
I'm huge. Cracks me up.
I think he only ever got one training session with the team, so it
Yeah,
makes sense that like no one knows how tall he is or what position he plays or like how good he was.
So he was brought in 2015. Instantly, only $400,000, 400,000 pounds. I mean, immediately loaned out to Frankfurt, FSV Frankfurt. All right, then loaned out to NEC in the Netherlands.
And I think that was the time when Pep Linders was there as well.
Oh, yeah. And then loaned to Royal Excel Moskron in Belgium. And then loaned out to Gent. Gent. That's how you pronounce that, I believe. Then loaned out to Mainz. Then loaned to Union Berlin. And then officially moved to Union Berlin for £6.5 million. So I'm going to try to do the math on that real quick. But let's see. $6.5 million. And he was signed for 400,000. That is roughly a that's a massive increase.
Yeah.
That's like over like a 1,600% increase or something like that. It's it's stupid. All right, it's stupid. All right, so let's go back to talking about the current events with the club, and let's talk about that Chelsea match a little bit. A little bit of wildness, to say the least, to it. Super built up, obviously, because these are two teams that are trying to prove that they are still... Well, I'm sorry, we are trying to prove we are still title contenders. Chelsea trying to prove that they are for real title contenders before everyone just kind of automatically coronates Man City again.
Yeah.
So it was big time trying to establish, if I can, it was a statement game for both clubs.
There we go. Boom. 2 gold stars.
Absolutely. Ends in that draw. I mean, I was a little frustrated right at the end of it simply because, you know, I felt like being a man up for the entire second half and starting the first like 15 minutes of the second half so strongly should have ended in something. But at the same time, Chelsea's a stout defensive team, and they were obviously parking the bus a whole lot more. I mean, what are your thoughts looking back on it now that we're a couple of weeks removed from that match?
I agree. I'm still a little frustrated. Not as much about like the fact that we had so much of the ball and just didn't score. Like that is part and parcel of being a man up for that long. It was a lot down to just the fact that we didn't really have our shooting boots on that day. Like we had the chances. We just could not make solid contact with the ball. It's just one of those weird things that I feel like we do more than a lot of teams where there's times where our players forget how to kick a ball. And it happens a lot at very important moments. And it was one of those games. I actually think that them going down the man hurt us more than it hurt them. I mean, they went out of the game completely and like they didn't really have anything to challenge us. I think Allison made like one save after the red card, and Lukaku was just in Matip and Van Dijk's pocket for the rest of the game. But what that did is it put them in their shell, and they're such a sturdy defensive team that they weren't going to come out of that. They were going to keep it tight. They were going to stay organized. They were just going to get in our way. And it was just the pattern of the match was like watching us play like a lower table team, but with much better players, because it was just that same run of passes, run of just here we go. We're going at these people. We had a lot more tools this time to like unlock it, and I thought we did a much better job. But again, when we did the job, when we did the task, when we got those chances, we just totally screwed up. We just couldn't kick. So that's what I'm most frustrated about. But I mean, you look at it objectively, a point against a fellow title challenger, even when they were down a man most of the time, how that changes approach from their side, I think it's still a good point.
Yeah. I mean, the goal that Havertz scored to give them the initial lead was flawless. It was a perfect goal. It's one of those where you look at it, you're like, well, we couldn't have really done much of anything about it. Like maybe close down on the pass that sets it up a little bit better, maybe. But even then, I don't know. It was just perfect. So to be able to rebound from that is great. Obviously, the chaos in front of goal that created the handball and the red card, which was, I mean, so much has been said about it, but it was such a weird situation. The few seconds beforehand where everything is just absolute chaos and we cannot for the life of us actually get the ball. That was kind of the microcosm view of what you were just talking about, of how we just didn't have our shooting boots. That was the microcosm view of, oh my God, would you just put it in the goal and it's not happening?
It's right there. Please just kick it in there.
It's right there. And then, of course, the whole situation with Reece James, which was, by all accounts, the right call. It just was the weirdest call of what is the correct decision. I don't know how to describe it. It just, it was so bizarre. I mean, Anthony Taylor literally walks up, takes one glimpse of the monitor, and then it's just like, well, screw this guy, and walks over and sends him off. It's like, did he have a vendetta? I don't know. It was so bizarre. But anyway, I think ultimately what lingers now for me is that it's that first 15 minutes or so of the second half.
Yeah.
Where we looked like, a team possessed.
Yeah.
Absolutely all over Chelsea for 15 minutes, just hounding them. My brother was at the house and we're watching it, and I told him, I was like, a goal is gonna happen. It is inevitable, as if this keeps up. And then something happened where we just said, oh well. And it seemed like our mentality totally changed. Mm-hmm. And I don't use that term lightly because obviously we throw around the mentality monsters phrase a lot at Liverpool and in this podcast, but something was just a little bit different. And that's what frustrates me a bit, is that I know that, they're parking the bus and that gets frustrating, and you do all that you can do and you get exhausted as well. But it also just kind of felt like the fight went out just a little bit of the team, where they went, whatever. They're being annoying, and so we're just going to kind of just do what we can and just accept a draw. And a draw is not bad. 1 point out of it is not bad at all. But that's the one thing about it that I think frustrates me a bit, is that it felt like we had all the pressure, or we were putting all the pressure onto them. And then at some point we just kind of stopped. And there could be a multitude of reasons for that, fatigue or Bobby kind of,
getting injured.
Yeah, he rolled his ankle or something, whatever it was, and with all of that going on, there's a multitude of reasons. But that's the one thing I think lingers for me, is that it just felt like we were putting all the pressure on them to try to keep us away, and then at some point we let up a little bit. And that's the only thing that frustrates me a bit.
Yeah, and it's not something you're used to seeing with this team, and maybe it's mixing in some of the new elements of players. But I mean, even though I thought the newer elements that were added to the team were the ones that kept going. But I totally agree with you. It seems like when we saw that not only could we not kick, but Mendy was having the game of his life, we just gave up. And we're like, all right, we'll take the point. It's just not our day. And it's just weird to see our team look like accepting of saying it's not our day, especially after what we did last season.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just a little bizarre to me. It's also bizarre that a first-choice keeper had the game of his life against us. Normally it's the backups.
It's weird. I don't understand.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. That's what it felt like. It felt like we just said, oh, well, not our day. We'll just try to take this. And it could be because, it's early and you don't want to press an issue that doesn't need to be pressed this early in the season,
Yeah.
Because it would have been very easy to try too hard, overcommit, mess up, give up a a 10-man goal and suddenly lose that match. And so I do understand it, and it's not a bad result, and it wasn't a bad performance, in general. Like I said, it's not like we screwed something up royally that set up Havertz's goal to begin with. It was a good goal.
Yeah.
And then we fought well to come back and did well to create the chaos that caused Reece James's, handball. Like, that was all good. It was good build up to it. So I don't feel bad about the result, but it just was a little bit weird, and there's that aspect of it that lingers with me now. Now, the good news, of course, being that, that we have a chance to try to, like, rebound against a Leeds team that is, I don't know, they're not looking like they were last year so far. And so, like, we have that chance to try to rebound there, and then who else do we have after that? Well, we got the Champions League starts up. Oh, and then it's friggin' Palace. Ugh. Which is always an annoying match, especially with Palace obviously destroying Tottenham today. So you've got chances to prove those are decent teams. They're not like the title favorite teams. Those are decent teams, so you have a chance to prove you're still in the conversation. But I don't know. It's not a bad result, but I feel weird about it. Is that weird?
No, I totally get what you mean. I'll take it. I guess I'm happy with it, but not that happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm like leaning into meh.
Yeah.
Like that. I feel like that's the only way to properly measure it. It's just dumb.
Right. Yeah. It is dumb. That's great. Why didn't we just say that word?
Yeah, why didn't we describe it as that earlier?
This whole segment could have been much shorter. Yeah, it's just kind of dumb. Oh, well. But, I mean, coming out of that match, is there anything that you feel like you learned, like a positive about this particular team that maybe stands out?
I'm loving the added elements of Harvey Elliott. He's just great to see in there. We're getting a midfield back. Henderson looks strong. It's just he looks strong enough to get the crap kicked out of him by Edouard Mendy trying to get the ball out of the net.
Yep.
That was weird. That was as weird as the result. That whole run of play. But I think we're strong team still, even if we did have that weird lapse. And it's just great to see the players that we want to count on as depth be able to play, and that we didn't really have anything go horribly wrong on this international break now that the Brazilian issue is worked out.
Yeah. Boy, I was not looking forward to possibly discussing that. I'm glad we kind of don't have to discuss that now. But what a bizarre, just the whole, and the storyline between like Argentina, that and what everything going on, like the being stopped on the pitch,
the
break, and
goodness gracious,
what was even happening? Just straight up bonkers.
Yeah, seriously, it's the best way to describe it is bonkers.
Yeah, it's become. I haven't always. I don't know why, but I've been using the term bonkers a lot lately. No clue why, but I have been. So, I'm gonna stick with it. And of course, like it's gonna be real funny when we say all this stuff and we talk so much about like this match and or this past match against Chelsea, all that sort of thing. And by the time like we're done recording, by the time we get this uploaded, it'll be like the middle of Chelsea and Villa, and then like Villa's gonna win like 5-0,
yeah.
And then like we're gonna be like, oh well, why in the world were we even talking about them? So I'm trying to put that out in the universe and will it into existence.
Manifest,
because that totally works. So anyway, well let's look ahead just a little bit here and look at the matchup, which will come up tomorrow for us against a Leeds United team. And then also talk a little bit about that start of our Champions League run and kind of the group that we got put in. But let's talk about Leeds first of all. Right now, Leeds 1-1 draw with Burnley, a 3-0 victory over Crew Alexandria in the Carabao Cup. But then 2-2 draw with Everton. 5-1 just absolutely getting smashed by United. Not exactly the Leeds squad that showed up last year that caught people off guard. After a season, in the books, it seems that the established Premier League clubs kind of know what to do with Leeds a little bit better than they did last time around, at least to start things off. But that's often the case with a club that comes up from the Championship, fires away their first season in the Premier League. That second season is typically, a downslide a little bit. But Leeds, what's going on with them right now, Alex? What do you think is happening with them that has them down there in 16th place?
They just had a tricky start. Probably could have had 3 points in a lot of these matches, but got left with one. They're a very good team. We know what to expect from them. We know which players are good. We know how they like to play. Weirdly, this was like the most forgettable match of last season because this was the one that happened the day after all the Super League stuff came out. So it'll be nice to care about this game because it should be a fun, exciting matchup. Our away support will be up against their home support. It'll be very interesting to see. So I'm expecting an exciting match. Hopefully not as high scoring as the 4-3 that we had last season, and hopefully not as dull as the 1-1 that we had last season. So I'm curious to see how we line up, how we approach the match, because it's just going to be so high intensity that, given our current lineup selection, at least in midfield, I'm very interested to see how we approach that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's see. Leeds, of course, will have. I'm trying to see if they got it. I mean, they have Daniel James now, who they got in from United. But outside of that, I mean, it's pretty much the same Leeds squad, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, they've brought in some. I can't remember off the top of my head who all they brought in, just because this window has been insane, but. Overall, the core of the squad is the same. They're still relying heavily on people like Bamford and Rafinha and Harrison and Calvin Phillips.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Daniel James, Leo Fjørgelde from Celtic, Christopher Clayson, Lewis Bate, Junior Firpo, and Jack Harrison are all the players in for Leeds. And then they sent out like a bazillion players. A lot of them on loans. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like this is a good opportunity to come back in and, out of an international break and off of a last Premier League matchup that was like high pressure matchup. It feels like it's a good opportunity for Liverpool to come in and, show once again why we were starting the season with some good performances against like Norwich and Burnley and all that. Like, I don't foresee this being any different necessarily than one of the games against Norwich or Burnley.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as a disrespect to Leeds. It's just right now Leeds is not who they were last year, and we are not who we were last year either. We're looking a little bit more like who we were a couple of years ago, like maybe looking like who we were a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Right. So, what do you think is going to happen in that matchup? Maybe give a little score prediction, perhaps.
I think it'll be 2-1. I think it'll be end-to-end, but both teams will not be able to score as many of the chances as they create. So it'll be exciting. It'll be nerve-wracking, but it'll be 2-1 our way.
I love it. I'm gonna go 2-0. I'm gonna say we keep that clean sheet.
Hey. Now we got Fab and Allison in the lineup. It'd be a lot more likely.
Exactly. All right. Along with that, we did mention that the next matchup, quick turnaround to go and play against AC Milan to start off the Champions League run for this season. Of course, put into a group of AC Milan, FC Porto, and Atletico Madrid. So, out of that squad, I mean, between AC Milan and Atletico, like you got the historic successes of AC Milan, you've got the current like up and coming successes of Atletico Madrid. and you got FC Porto. So out of that group, no, I don't mean to disrespect FC Porto. They're a solid squad. I mean, they're not a bad squad. This is an interesting group we got put up in, Alex. What's your take on it?
It's such a Champions League group. Like it just feels like peak Champions League. Like there's a great mix of teams from a bunch of different leagues. You've got you've got Serie A, you've got Premier League, you've got La Liga, and you've got the outlier of the Portuguese league. But it's like a historic team in the competition. And like you mentioned, you've got the riding the wave Atletico Madrid right now, the return of Luis Suarez yet again to Anfield with a different Spanish team this time. You've got Milan rebounding, then readjusting after going close last season. It's going to be tricky. All the teams in that group are really tough to beat and tough to play against. And even to your point, Porto, one of the most organized teams, even though we've had great results against them in recent Champions League outings, it's still going to be tough. So it's going to be fun to watch. I fully expect us to get out of the group because we're just as good as any team in the world, but it'll be an interesting test for our players.
Yeah. You don't look at Milan, Porto, or Atletico and necessarily see them as world-breaking teams. It's probably safe to say that we feel like Atletico is the best team in that group out of those three. But, they're not exactly... I don't know. It's not like going up against PSG or something. They still have some holes in them for sure. And even though they're trying to establish themselves as the team in Spain, trying to take it up. If Barcelona's falling apart as a club a little bit, Atletico's really trying to do all that. But they're still not necessarily a team that we feel like is going to be the biggest headache to deal with. But it'll be interesting. It'll be a good game, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I'm so curious to see what happens with Griezmann back because he is so built for that team now, and he's returned another weird transfer that was hilarious and giving back for absolutely nothing essentially. And then they've got a lot of good players, but they're doing that thing now where they were good and did stuff, and then brought in a bunch of players to be more attacking and be more exciting, and they just don't really know how to do that because they are Atletico and they are Simeone and they have their way of playing. So when we play them, I don't know if everyone will be fully settled yet, especially you look at because them in particular, I've seen a lot of just because they play a lot of fun games, even though they're not necessarily the most fun team, but Marcos Llorente on their team, the one who scored the last time they played at Anfield, he filled that Griezmann role, but now Griezmann is back. So what happens to him? How do they play together? What does that mean for us if they're playing at the same time? So a lot of questions to be answered, but should be very entertaining ways to answer them.
For sure. And AC Milan should be a fun team to go up against. They're obviously it's much different than the AC or Inter squads of the mid 2000s, late 2000, that were the late aughts that were, some of the better teams in the world. But it's a team with a good history, and it's a team that is trying to find their footing again, if they can. Not necessarily doing quite as well, I think, to start things off in Serie A as they would have liked. Well, no, I take it back now. I pulled it up again, and I forgot that Serie A has only played two matches so far. So they've won both their matches. I was thinking they were sitting on week 4 as us as well, and they were in 4th place. Never mind. No, they're doing fine. So a team that's trying to reestablish themselves in Serie A and reestablish that past history a bit. What have you been able to watch them at all, keep up with them at all, know anything about them at all? Because I'll be honest with you, I know nothing. I feel like I know Porto and Atletico so much more than AC Milan.
I haven't gotten to see them this season, but I did see them quite a bit last season, and they were, lights out for a lot of the year. Then they just totally collapsed. They had some injuries. I mean, say what you will about Zlatan, but he does tie that unit together. And without him in the squad, they are missing a big part of like a big focal point on the field to like help dictate and marshal a lot of the young talent that they have. That said, they still have a lot of good players and can beat anyone because the players that they have are special and can pull things out. We'll really have to watch out for Teo Hernandez left back because he's gonna Andy us. He's gonna try to do that for us. So I mean, a lot of their play will come through his forward marauding runs, and they've got a neat and tidy midfield with Tonali and Kessié, and Tonali's kind of growing into the role of being a Milan midfielder as what that entails. So it'll be an interesting time to play them. Especially now, like we've played more games than them, and we've got a little bit more under our belt in terms of preparation. So we'll see. It'll another intriguing matchup.
You think we do much rotation or changing of the lineups because it's such a short turnaround from Sunday to Wednesday?
I'm not necessarily sure if we will, just because we say
it's not what we do. It's not our identity anyway.
Yeah. It's not what we do, and we've also just had a bunch of injuries of the players that we would probably play in that time. Like Minamino's injured, Harvey Elliott's got a bit of a knock. Henderson's probably still recovering from getting kicked by Mendy. It's just the whole thing. So I think we'll keep it pretty locked down, especially to start our Champions League campaign off with a strong result.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what you want to do. You want to send a message early on that, like, hey, we are the team to beat in this group. We are going to be the team to beat. And I think it's safe to say that Milan, Atletico, and Porto are looking at the group and going, okay, if we can get a result against Liverpool, that's going to be like huge because that's going to change our fortunes with the rest of the group as well. We are that team in there. I don't think that's like an arrogant statement to make. I just talking about accomplishments, I think that's it. So, all right, what do you expect to see against AC Milan? What type of result are you thinking? If you want to give a little prediction,
similar lineup to whatever we play against Leeds. Maybe one or two changes, but I'm expecting a more comfortable victory there. Expecting like 2-0. I'll say 2-0.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna say 1-0. I'm gonna say we only get one goal, but that's probably deserve a few more.
Yeah.
I think that's a very Liverpool result.
Yeah, it's what we do.
It's just our thing. It's what we do. Let's round it out real quick by talking, just for kits and giggles. Let's talk about how we have officially now unveiled that long-rumored yellow third kit. The massive throwback to the, what was that, like 88? Maybe before then. I forget exactly when we had the yellow kit before. I'll look that up real quick. But that it's official now. It's out there. We've got the throwback to the old kind of crown paints kit. What are your thoughts? Because I'll tell you right off the bat, I think it's lit.
Really?
Yeah.
I hate it. I think it looks awful. I think it looks like Ronald McDonald. I like the inspiration for it. I just don't like how it came together. It just looks very clownish. So I will not be partaking.
Wow. I mean, I get that. I get that for sure. All right, so it was the early '80s when we had that look. That started up kind of in 82, 84 is when that was our main away kit. That crown paints. Sorry, yellow with the red stripes. So not a fan.
Okay. No, I just it's not for me, Clive.
I like it. It obviously the main difference between it and the actual third kit from the 80s that it's kind of modeled after is that it does not have like a pattern on it. Mm-hmm. It has the checker pattern around the collars. I mean, I see for sure, and I do like the Ronald McDonald look because it kind of the checker pattern does give it a little bit of a I work at a fast food restaurant type of feel. I do see that. I still like it, and maybe it's just because I'm a sucker for anything retro. You know, like retro thing is it's kind of my thing. It's kind of what
Yeah,
I'm into in
yeah,
general.
just a little bit.
Yeah, but I like the simplicity of it because I mean the last yellow kit we had was 1415. And it was the one that had the weird red stripe that was like below the neckline and kind of below the shoulders. And I couldn't get behind that one because I just felt like that one was a little too. It was warrior, and it was warrior being warrior, you know?
You don't count Toxic Thunder?
As yellow?
Yeah.
No. No, Toxic Thunder's green. It's very green to me. I don't count it as yellow at all. Am I supposed to count it as yellow?
I don't know. I guess I count it as like a half yellow, half green, so I think it would fall into both counts.
Yeah, I mean it looks like an old highlighter. Like if you have a yellow highlighter, but then you use it and you accidentally get a little bit of pen ink in it.
Yep.
That's what that color is. So okay, you're right. Yeah, no, I understand the thinking of yellow. In my head though, it's always been green, so I don't count it as a yellow. Green or old yellow highlighter.
Yeah.
No in between with Toxic Thunder. Oh man. Which of course I hated Toxic Thunder anyway. So
yeah, I can't remember if I'm sure we've talked about it, but I did the mystery kit bundle from soccer.com, and I got 3 Toxic Thunder kits, 2 of which were Lallana and 1 was Coutinho, and they were all too small.
It's like, how could they have gotten it more wrong? Like, how? How do you do that? Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Like, all right, this guy wants a Mr. Kit. What size? Doesn't matter.
Sausage casing, please.
Yep, exactly. You go back to, let's see, 0607 had yellow kits. 97, 98 had some yellow kits. 86, 87, and then you'll go back to the 80s.
I mean, 05, 04, 05 had the yellow kit. The Reebok one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of like a old gold, softer yellow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it still counts. Still counts. But yeah, I mean, like the yellow kit has been, you know, not a mainstay by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been a part of our club history since the 80s.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm always going to appreciate it a little bit more. So I'm still sticking with it. I think that this interpretation of the yellow kit, even if it has a little bit of a fast food restaurant vibe, even if the Ronald McDonald and the checker, you know, border is a part of it, I still like it because of the influence of the kit itself. And it's one of those things that we do a yellow kit with red trim every so often ever since the 80s, and I'm fine with that if it's done well. And because this is a simple one, I'm behind it. I'm still going lit on this one as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. The only downside I'll say is that I didn't win the Five Guys kit giveaway that they did, where they made the shirt that was based off of our third kit.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. Oh well. Would you have preferred the rumored third kits that would have actually had the stripes?
I don't even remember what that looks like, because I knew, like, the way that the leaks rolled out with this yellow one, I was like, okay, that's not just like a concept, that's the actual kit. Yeah. So I didn't pay attention to anything else. I was like, these are what we're getting.
There were some rumors that it was going to be like a direct copy of the one from the early 80s that had the red pinstripes. I wasn't sure if having pinstripes would have helped you out.
I think it's just the checkered accents is what like takes it away for me, because they just look thrown on there. They look cheap.
I gotcha. So if it was a solid border, or if it had pinstripes maybe, and not the checkers, you probably would have been better with it.
Yeah, or if the whole jersey was checkered, like if we just continue to lean into the Croatia jersey theme that we've had for the past 2 years, like let's just take it.
I would have been all about it. Yeah, I would have been all about it. So you do have me second guessing the checker a little bit now that you've made the fast food comment, but I'm going to have to stick with my word. I still like it. I'm still into it.
Well, I hate you.
That's fair. Welcome to the internet.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, we did have to just touch base on that a little bit, but I mean, it felt good to be back. It felt good to be talking again.
Yeah, I agree. I remember that we have a team now.
Yeah.
And I remember that we have a podcast.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe these, if it works out, maybe some of these Saturday mornings discussions can continue in the future, especially if we do a little bit of like discussion as a match is going on, and not talk about like the typical podcast stuff, but talk about like the actual current events of what's happening in the match, that sort of thing. I think that could be fun to do. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you, listener, for tuning in to this episode. If you are catching the YouTube video, or if you're just catching the podcast itself later on, we appreciate your support as always. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Share it with people that you think would be interested in hearing and participating in some more Liverpool discussions. That is Alex Lebel over there. I'm your friend Joseph Craven. This has been You'll Never Talk Alone. Alex, you got any closing remarks?
We're coming for you, Leeds. Screw you.
Yeah. Let's start an intense and totally unnecessary rivalry with Leeds now. I'm in. Hate them. I hate them. I've always hated them.
Yeah.
All right. This has been You'll Never Talk Alone. We want to give, of course, a shout out and dedicate this episode in honor of our friend Andrew Ainsworth. Thank you once again for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.